England, 1912. The Berlins, a wealthy upper-class family, are celebrating the engagement of their daughter, and Arthur Berlin, the father, wants to say a few words. I am delighted about this engagement, and I hope it won't be too long before you are married. And I want to say this. There's a good deal of silly talk about these days, but, and I speak as a hard-headed businessman who has to take risks and know what it's about. I say, you can ignore all this silly, pessimistic talk. When you marry, you'll be marrying at a very good time. Yes, a very good time indeed, and soon it'll be an even better time. Last month, just because the miners came out on a strike, there's a lot of wild talk about possible labor trouble in the near future. Don't worry, we have passed the worst of it. We, employers, at last are coming together to see that our interests are properly protected. And we're in for a time of steadily increasing prosperity. But father, what about war? Glad you mentioned it, son. I'm coming to that. Just because the Kaiser makes a speech or two, or a few German officers have too much to drink and begin talking nonsense, you'll hear some people say that war's inevitable. And to that, I say, fiddlesticks! The Germans don't want war. Nobody wants war, except some half-civilized folks in the Balkans. And why? There's so much at stake these days. Everything to lose and nothing to gain by war. Yes, father, I know, but still... Just let me finish, son. You have a lot to learn yet. And I'm talking as a hard-headed, practical man of business. And I say there isn't a chance of war. The world's developing so fast that it will make war impossible. Look at the progress we're making. In a year or two, we'll have aeroplanes that will be able to go anywhere. And then ships. Why? A friend of mine went over this new liner last week, the Titanic. She sails next week 46,800 tons, New York in 5 days, and every luxury, and unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. That's what you got to keep your eye on. Facts like that, progress like that, and not a few German officers talking nonsense. Now, you young people, just listen to this and remember what I'm telling you now. In 20 or 30 years' time, let's say in 1940, you may be giving a little party like this. Why, your son or daughter might be getting engaged. And I tell you, by that time, there will be peace and prosperity and rapid progress everywhere. Except, of course, in Russia, which will always be behindhand, naturally. Arthur! Yes, my dear, I know. I'm talking too much. But you youngsters, just remember what I said. Please, sir, an inspector calls.
Nevertheless, the engagement party was over once the police inspector arrived at the house to prove that the whole family was the culprit of the suicide of a young woman. Little by little, he interrogates each one of them, and many secrets are discovered. But nothing is as it seems.
You know something. What is it?
That man wasn't a police officer.
What?
Are you certain? I'm almost certain. That's what I came back to tell you.
Good luck. You asked about him, huh?
Yes. I met a police sergeant I know down the road. I asked him about this Inspector Gould and described the chap carefully to him. He swore there wasn't any Inspector Gould or anybody like him on the force here.
You didn't tell him.
No. I passed it off by saying I'd been having an argument with somebody. But the point is, this sergeant was dead certain that they hadn't an inspector at all, like the chap who came here.
By jingo, a fake!
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say I couldn't imagine a real police inspector talking like that to us? Well, you were right. There isn't any such inspector we've been had.
I'm going to make certain of this.
What are you going to do?
Ring up the chief constable, Colonel Roberts.
Careful what you say, dear.
Of course. Bramley, 8752. I was going to do this anyhow. I've had my suspicions all along. Colonel Robert, please. Mr. Arthur Birling here. Oh, Roberts. Birling here. Sorry to ring you up so late, but can you tell me if an Inspector Gould has joined your staff lately? Gould. Goole. A new man. Tall. Clean-shaven. I see. Yes. Well, that settles it. No, just a little argument we were having here. Good night. There is no Inspector Gould on the police. That man definitely wasn't a police inspector at all. As Gerald says, we have been had.
I felt it all the time. He never talked like one. He never even looked like one.
This makes a difference, you know. In fact, it makes all the difference.
Of course.
I suppose we are all nice people now. If you have nothing more sensible than that to say, Sheila, you'd better keep quiet.
She's right, though.
And you better keep quiet anyhow. If that had been a police inspector and he'd heard you confess...
Arthur, careful!
Yes. You see, Gerald, you haven't to know the rest of our crimes and idiocies.
That's all right. I don't want to. What do you make of this business now? Was it a hoax?
Of course. Somebody put that fellow up to come in here and hoaxing us. There are people in this town who dislike me enough to do that. We ought to have seen through it from the first. In the ordinary way, I believe I would have done. But coming like that, bang on top of our little celebration, just when we're all feeling so pleased with ourselves, naturally, it took me by surprise.
I wish I'd been here when that man first arrived. I'd have asked him a few questions before I allowed him to ask us any.
It's all right saying that now.
I was the only one of you who didn't give it to him. And now I say we must discuss this business quietly and sensibly and decide if there's anything to be done about it.
You are absolutely right, my dear. Already we've discovered one more important fact, that fellow was a fraud, and we have been hoaxed, and that may not be the end of it by any means.
What's the use of talking about behaving sensibly? You're beginning to pretend now that nothing's really happened at all, and I can't see like that. This girl's still dead, isn't she? Nobody brought her to life, have they?
That's just what I feel, Eric, and it's what they don't seem to understand.
Whoever that chap was, the fact remains that I did what I did, and Mother did what she did, and the rest of you did what you did to her. It's still the same rotten story, whether it's been told to a police inspector or to somebody else. It's what happened to the girl and what we all did to her that matters.
And Eric's absolutely right, and it's the best thing any of us has said tonight, and it makes me feel a bit less ashamed of us. He inspected us all right, and don't let's start dodging and pretending now. Between us, we drove that girl to commit suicide. We have only his word for it. And we had his word for it that he was a police inspector, and we know how now he was lying. So he could have been lying all the time. He had the laugh of us, all right.
He could laugh his head off if I knew it really was all a hoax.
I'm convinced it is. No police inquiry, no one girl that all this happens to, no scandal, and no suicide?
We can settle that at once.
How?
By ringing up the infirmary. Either there's a dead girl there, or there isn't.
It would look a bit queer, won't it, ringing up at this time of night?
I don't mind doing it. And if there isn't, anyway, we'll see. Is that the infirmary? This is Mr. Gerald Croft of Croft Limited. Yes. We're rather worried about one of our employees. Have you had a girl brought to this afternoon who committed suicide by drinking disinfectant or any like suicide? Yes. You're certain of that. I see. Well, thank you very much. Good night. No girl has died in there today. Nobody's been brought in after drinking disinfectant. They haven't had a suicide for months.
There you are. Proof positive. The whole story just a lot of moonshine. Gerald, have a drink.
Thanks. I think I could just do with one now.
So could I.
And I must say, Gerald, you've argued this very cleverly, and I'm most grateful. Well, you'll see. While I was out of the house, I had time to cool off and think things out a little.
Yes, he didn't keep you on the run as he did the rest of us. I'll admit now he gave me a bit of a scare at the time. But I had a special reason for not wanting any public scandal just now. Well, here's to us. Come on, Sheila. Don't look like that. All over now. The worst part is, but you're forgetting one thing I still can't forget. Everything we said had happened really had happened. If it didn't end tragically, then that's lucky for us. But it might have done. But the whole thing's different now. Come. Can't you see that, can't you? I want to get out of this. It frightens me the way you talk. Nonsense! You'll have a good laugh over it yet. You're pretending everything's just as it was before. So, nothing really happened. So, there is nothing to be sorry for, nothing to learn. We're gonna all go on behaving just as we did.
Well, why shouldn't we?
I tell you, whoever that inspector was, it was anything but a joke. You knew it then. You began to learn something, and now just stop. You're ready to go on in the same old way. And you're not, huh? No, because I remember what he said, how he looked, and what he made me feel. Fire and blood and anguish, and it frightens me the way you talk, and I can listen to any more of it. Well, go to bed then, and don't stand there being hysterical.
Hey, Robert, child. In the morning, they'll be as amused as we are. Everything's all right now, Sheila.
No, not yet. It's too soon. I must think. Yes? Mr. Billings speaking. What? Here. That was the police. A girl has just died on her way to the infirmary after swallowing some disinfectant. And a police inspector is on his way here to ask some questions.